This is the podcast, Playing Above the Line, where we get into the details of what it is that's made entrepreneurs and business leaders successful. Hi, I'm Dennis Sheeran, and I'm a business leader with Hartman, Blackman, and Kilgore. I've been the managing shareholder of HP&K for many years and have worked with local businesses to learn what makes them successful throughout their career.
And I'm Alan Cave. I'm also a shareholder at HP&K, a full-service accounting and business consulting firm. During our careers, Dennis and I have both been fortunate to work with many successful businesses and their owners, as well as other leaders throughout the accounting profession and beyond. We're happy to share some of their stories with you. In the studio today, we have Brad Pitt. Raised in a blue-collar working-class family, Brad started his career right out of high school as a construction laborer and now is the Chief Administrative Officer of Riviera Utilities. Well, Dennis, another beautiful day, another great podcast. How are you, sir?
I am wonderful. I'm here, I'm breathing, and I'm ready to kick this off.
Always a good thing.
So today we have Brad Pitt. Brad, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's just kick this off. Tell us a little bit about Brad Pitt.
Well, I'm the original Brad Pitt.
That's right.
The other's a copycat, obviously. Yes.
Yeah, by just 2 years, not too far, but by 2 years.
You set the standard.
Yeah. I was born in Mobile, raised down Dolphin Island Parkway, grew up, went to BC Rain High School, graduated many years ago, 1979. My dad was a Marine, and both of my brothers were Marines. Dad was in World War II, and brothers were in Vietnam. And when they come back, they taught me a lot of lessons. And not like they were intending to teach me lessons, but I saw it by watching what they did, right? You know, people learn more from what they see you do than from what they hear you say. You know, probably the two most important things that they taught me was perseverance and to never give up and keep going. And so that served me well my whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two great lessons for sure. So playing on that a little bit, perseverance. I mean, right now, your current position is what? You're the Chief Administrative Officer at Riviera, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, but you didn't start there, right? So
no, far from there.
So tell us a little bit about your career path, and along that idea of perseverance, you kind of started doing what, construction type work 30-something years ago, and now you're the CAO, I guess, of a very well-respected and big organization. So talk about that a little bit.
Right. Well, I graduated in 79, and I wasn't mentally mature enough to go to college. And I just wasn't prepared. College was not in my plans. And so, none of my family had gone to college. And so, they were all successful, come back. Dad was an industrial electrician, and both my brothers, had blue-collar careers and were very successful. And so that was my path. So I went to work for an investor-owned utility company in Mobile that they're no longer here. They've sold out twice, and there's no more existence of them, which is sad that they were, the corporate headquarters was here. So I started in construction. I was right out of high school and started there and worked 26 years there. So started at the bottom and worked my way up. And part of that process, they had a tuition reimbursement plan. And so, I got to a point, and I was a manager of compliance, which was, all the rules and regulations that the utility has to comply with. And so I was reporting to one of the vice presidents, and he was doing my performance review one year, and he said, Brad, you're doing a great job, but until you get a formal education, you're where you're going to be. And that was the foot I needed to get me going, And so I went to University of Mobile 3 times. I went to orientation 3 times because, that was a huge commitment. I was 39 years old. I was married and had 2 little kids. Yeah. And so it took 3 times to go. And finally I said, I just got to do this. And so, not giving up, that perseverance. And it took me, 5 years to go 2 nights a week and every other Saturday. But finally, went through and completed a bachelor's degree, and so that served me well. And the funny thing is, when you learn what good leadership is, it's easy to see what it's not. And so I kind of grew apart from the organization I was with, and so I started looking for a better place to be. And it took me about 2 years. It doesn't come quick, but so the opportunity came up to go to Riviera, and after 26 years, it was a leap of faith to go. People say, was it hard to leave? It wasn't hard to leave the organization. It was hard to leave the people, because I literally grew up at that organization with people from, when I was a senior in high school basically to an adult. So it was hard to leave the people, but it was the right thing to do.
So in your bio, you talk about starting at the bottom and working your way up. You believe that's the way to grow. But two, out of that, I know that you've taken a lot of lessons about mentoring, leading, guiding, and influencing. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think starting at the bottom, I can connect with our guys in the field because I've been where they are. And so I understand the issues that they have. And so understanding those issues and then being able from the other side, from the management side, to be able to understand them and address them, it goes a long way for me to be able to connect with the guys in the field. And that's so important because to me, leadership is about relationships and about influence. And so being able to understand their point of view allows me to have that relationship with them.
So let me back up just a minute and ask about your current role with Riviera. So what exactly are your duties as the Chief Administrative Officer?
Pretty much anything that happens inside the buildings is under me except for IT and financial.
Okay.
Everything else, customer service, human resources, transportation, pretty much anything that's not operations that happens inside the building falls under me.
And so you get to deal with all the problems, and it sounds like, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right.
But all the good things too. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on. So I do a lot of the leadership training that we do. We believe in and we put our money and our mouths behind leadership training and personal development for our employees. One of the things that I found, and I'm not the smartest person in this room or in a lot of places, but one thing that I realized, even in my first career in all the organizations that I've dealt with, is you think about how people are promoted, right? So you have a supervisor retires, and how do you promote somebody into that supervisory position? Who do you choose? You choose the best technical guy that you got. He's the good guy. He's the good worker. So you take him and put him into that leadership position, and you say, go be a good leader. You don't support him. I mean, this is most organizations. You don't support him. You don't give him training. You don't give him the things that he needs, but you gave him all the things that he needed to be a great technical guy, right? He got to be a good technical guy because you give him the training, you give him the tools, you give him the support, and he was a great technical guy. So what you've done is you've taken a technical guy out of the field and you've put him into a supervisory role where he's weak. So you've made the organization weaker because of that move, and recognizing that and being in the position that I'm in, having the ability to do something about it, to me is a huge difference. You don't find a lot of organizations that do that.
So I'll ask this question off of that, a little bit about your perspective on leadership. Leadership begins day one where you work, and leadership's happening all your life. What do you think?
Absolutely it is. And I'll tell you what, these are the things I tell employees at new employee orientation. So I tell them that they're at an organization that is growing, that there's a lot of opportunity, and that we will provide you that opportunity. And I get a lot of big eyes and looks, and I tell them, I said, I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm not responsible for you, but I'm responsible to you. As a leader of this organization, I'm responsible to give you the training, the tools, the opportunity that you need, but to take advantage of it is up to you. I can't make you take advantage of it. You will get what you need here to be successful, but you have to take advantage of it. And I give them the John Wooden quote that to me is so prophetic, and that is, when opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare. And there's story after story at Riviera Utilities where guys have been there and not taken advantage of the training that we provide. And then when a position comes open, what they say is, well, if I'd have only known. I'm like, the guy's been here 40 years. He's leaving at some point, So you got to start preparing that succession plan.
So what does that look like at Riviera? I mean, you say that you give your employees the tools to be successful as leaders, but so it's a formalized, I guess, leadership program, or is it take the form of various classes? I mean, what does that look like?
Both. If you're in a supervisory position at Riviera, we just finished up a 2-year program, and you had 2 years to complete the courses that are required for that level of position. And that was for the CEO, for me, all the way down to the frontline supervisor. So they had a 2-year curriculum that they had to get those classes in. And it was fundamentals of computer. It was employment law. It was drug and alcohol, but it was also productive work environment. It was also leadership. It was also, day-to-day things, productivity, how to manage time, things that you should know being in a leadership position. And so we just wrapped that up. And out of, I think, the 45 supervisors, we had 38 who completed every requirement. And the ones that didn't were, new supervisors. And so they have extended time to meet that requirement.
Continuous training throughout their whole career?
If they want it.
If they want it.
There's always something. We're changing it up a little bit this year. I haven't announced it to them yet, but maybe by the time this comes out, it'll be announced.
Oh, so we have a scoop.
Breaking news. We've always wanted a scoop. This is our first one.
Yeah. So, 2 years of training, I felt like people were getting tired of the, day in, day out, presentation, study kind of stuff. So we're changing it up this year, and we're gonna model it after some of the county leadership programs. We're going to have an application process. It's going to start in July, and it'll be a monthly meeting thing. And what made me think of that is when you want to promote from inside, right? And so to get somebody up to a high level in an organization, they need to know more than just the daily leadership stuff, right? We do a lot of things. We're out in the community. We're with the legislators. We're with the county. And so they don't get an opportunity to experience that right now. So my plan is to, we'll have an overnight retreat. We're going to do Berkman personality on them, and then we're going to schedule every month. We'll have a meeting. We're going to go to Montgomery, and we're going to talk to the legislators and get them to understand how important being involved with your community is, how important it is being involved with your, the politics that go on for your business. And they don't ever get the opportunity to do that in their day-to-day position. And so to get them exposed to that, if they want to go to the next level, they need to understand how important that is and how important Riviera is to the community. And so it's going to be the first year that we do it. But I think it'll be good. It'll be different. It'll be something fun. It'll be a change from the drudgery of leadership classes.
That's great. I love it because you're trying to give them something far beyond what they may believe. That's what leadership is about, is trying to constantly push them forward. So that's fantastic. One thing you mentioned there was the Berkman personality test. Talk a little bit about Berkman.
Yeah, Berkman. We started using Berkman in 2011, and it was part of our strategic planning process. And so the Berkman, I've done a lot of personality profiles, the DISC and HBDI, and, there's several. But the Berkman goes so much further with information. It does your usual style. It also does your needs. And it also identifies stress areas and stress behaviors that may be likely if your needs aren't met. And so why that's important to Riviera as an organization, we are using it from the top down. So all the managers have gone through it. And so if you understand yourself better, then you can react differently when you're under stress, right? And so to see those in black and white and understand them is huge. And if you have that for everybody that reports to you, you know when they're under stress how they're going to react, and you know how to react to them. And so the Berkman, you can run a coaching report for everybody that reports to you. So it'll tell Brad how to react with, the direct reports when they're under stress. It's very in-depth. You can run 60 reports off of one profile. So it's one profile, and there's 60 reports. You can run a team report, and it's based on a map, color map, and you can look at it as a team. And somebody who's very energetic versus somebody who's and task oriented, extroverted versus someone who is very introverted and people oriented. Well, if you're going to put a team together that's going to sell a project, you don't need everybody that's in the red zone, which is task-oriented and go, let's get this done. You need people who are going to be thoughtful and think about all the aspects of it. And you need people who are going to sell it and be able to communicate to customers or contractors or whoever it is. And so you can look at that profile and put a project team together that's well-balanced, and that's important as well.
And that's actually a very innovative approach, I think, that Riviera is taking and using Berkman and the whole leadership program in general. And I think that a lot of times people look at that kind of stuff as, well, it's not revenue generating or it's maybe a sunk cost. But I mean, that I would imagine, and you can confirm this, but I'm thinking that the investment that you're making in your employees is paying off exponentially, I would think, in productivity, in just, understanding themselves and that kind of thing and helping move the organization forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. And, when you have happy employees, you have productive employees. And when you have productive employees, everybody wins, right? The customers win, the organization wins, everybody wins. And so being in tune and engaged with your employees is important. And that's what this is designed to do. It's designed all of us to get on the same page. It doesn't matter if it's from the top to the bottom. Everybody's on the same page and we understand each other.
So, Brad, let's talk a little bit about those who've influenced your leadership style. What individuals out there or people that over your lifetime or now that influence how you see leadership?
Sure. Well, like I said, my dad and my two brothers were probably my earliest influencers, but I followed the teachings of John Maxwell because I believe in the philosophy, right? And it's more of a teacher philosophy, and it's the 21 Laws book. It's a 7-week class that I do every year for anybody at Riviera that wants to participate in it. And it talks about the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And to me, the most important law out of that is the law of sacrifice. And what I explain to people is you need to understand that the higher you go in leadership, the more sacrifice you have to make, right? It may be time, it may be money, it may be relationships. When you are pouring into yourself and you're improving yourself, there's others who are going to look at you and think, why are you doing that? I call it the crabs in a bucket. When you're that one crab's just about to get over the edge of the bucket, what happens? All the other ones grab up and grab him and pull him back down into the bucket. So you got to be able to get over that. And the way I relate it to them is I think of it as, we're regulated, so we have drug testing. And the first thing everybody says, what I do on my own time is my own time. Well, yeah, but it's the law, right? It doesn't matter. It's not my regulation. It's a federal regulation, and we have to drug test you. And if you do it, you get caught, you get caught. And so I look at the law of sacrifice the same way. As you get higher in an organization, you start to represent that organization. And so it doesn't matter if I'm at work or if I'm out on the weekend, I can't behave in a way that's going to reflect negatively on our organization. So that's a sacrifice that I have to make as you move higher in an organization. And that's what I try to explain to them. There's a cost for going up, right? And the higher you go, the higher the price. And you never stop paying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, John Maxwell, I think, is a name that's come up several times, throughout our first several episodes, and so you're just reinforcing the importance of that philosophy and that kind of thing. Switch gears just a minute and talk about the fun personal stuff. So I want to ask about two of your hobbies. You've got several, but what about scuba diving? Let's start with that. Where's the best place you've ever been scuba diving?
Best place is Key West.
Okay.
Yeah, it is unbelievable how relaxing it is. And that don't make sense to a lot of people because you're underwater with a tank on your back. But for me, I am so relaxed. I really feel like a fish in the water instead of a fish out of the water. I started scuba diving in 1979. I was a senior in high school, and myself and my middle brother got certified. And then in 1980, my older brother and then both of my brother's wives became certified. So we dove as a family for years and years and years out of Panama City. We'd go camp every year and dive every day. And then, life happens, kids, marriage come along, and I stopped diving for a number of years. But I gave my two daughters dive lessons for Christmas last year, and so they got certified. And so now we dive as a family.
That's great.
Yeah, so we enjoy it. I went Saturday.
That is cool. And so in addition to scuba diving, one of the other things you have listed here is cooking. So, and I like to cook as well. So what's the specialty? What is the Brad Pitt specialty? What's your go-to meal?
Ribs, Yeah,
All right.
barbecue
let's
ribs,
talk.
Boston butts. That's and so I build the grills that I cook on. Also, that's one of my hobbies is metal fabrication, and so
Nice.
I've got a shop in my backyard.
Oh, man.
I think Brad qualifies as what we call a Renaissance man. I mean,
Yeah.
he's, diving and metal fabrication, cooking.
Yeah.
I mean, good gracious.
We're going to have to get Brad on one of our cooking adventures because, I don't know, we have a 84-inch long reverse smoker that we use. We're going to have to get together sometime and have an event.
Absolutely.
We will. So as we kind of wrap up our visit, and this has been fun, a lot of great insight. Let me ask you a couple of questions that we just typically ask folks. So you talked about John Maxwell, obviously, and a lot of his books. I'm sure that you're fans of. But what about music wise? Like if we opened your iTunes, your Spotify, what do we find on rotation these days?
Probably music, the most eclectic playlist you will ever see.
Well, I need to hear more about that. Give me some examples.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's things from the Struts. The Struts are a band out of the UK, out of London. Elvis, anything country. I mean, it runs the gamut. Rock and roll, Southern rock and roll. Probably my favorite rock and roll song is Guns N' Roses. It's probably my favorite band, rock band. Yeah.
Okay.
But I listen mainly to podcasts. When I'm driving now, I am addicted to podcasts.
Tell a couple of podcasts.
Yeah, what are you listening to right now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Playing Above the Line is one.
There you go. Very good.
That's the best answer you could give, by the way.
But I listen to Business Wars, Legal Wars, Court Junkie, Criminal.
Okay.
I've got about 12 that I'll follow and listen to. And anytime I'm in a vehicle, I'm listening to them.
Very good. All right, last question. So as you drive back across the bay today, if a spaceship were to land on the interstate and stop traffic and the little alien got off and walked up to your car and said, Brad, take me to your leader, where would you take him?
Home. My wife, I've always said she gives me a moral compass. And so she's my partner. We've been married for almost 33 years. June will be 33 years. And so that's comfort to me. That's where I would want to be.
Great answer, and the safe answer, by the way.
Yeah, very good. Brad, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad. Dennis, Brad is always a great visit. And, the one thing that he said that kind of struck a chord with me is that you don't know what real leadership is until you see what it isn't. I think that just goes to show that even in those bad situations, you can learn things.
No doubt. And Brad talked about perseverance, and he also talked about servant leadership. And as I listened to Brad talk, I could hear the servant leadership in his voice, and just a great discussion and great thoughts from Brad. If you're a customer of Riviera Utilities, you can follow them on Facebook to keep up with community events, job postings, and even power outage information. And you can learn more about Brad by following him on Twitter. His username is @BradleySPitt. Well, thanks for listening to our podcast today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to Playing Above the Line at iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcast. And be sure to leave us a rating. We'd love to know what you think about our show.
To contact us or to stay connected, follow us on social media @HBKCPAS on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.